you, seeker. Now don't feel alone here in the New Age, because there's a seeker born every minute. Yes, I'm Dr. Happy Harry Cox, and call me happy because I am. Because you're listening to another in a series of my mind-breaking records, Men Never Lived on Earth, which started off with I Came from Outer Space, followed by Strangers at Our Door, which includes the ultra-high-speed recording of real gas music from Jupiter. If you haven't got them, buy them now. I was right about the comet. Get them and see why. Write me here in my award-winning communication trailer, Space Nyan, Blue Mouse Trailer Resort, Hellmouth, California, 90666. Dogs flew spaceships. The Aztecs invented the vacation. Men and women are the same sex. Our forefathers took drugs. Your brain is not the boss. Yes, that's right. Everything you know is wrong.
Yes, everything you know about Trump is wrong! Well, maybe. So the purpose of this video series is because for months now, I have seen liberals and centrists alike make a lot of claims about Trump that I feel are not only unfounded, but downright absurd. Now, in a previous video, I mocked Ashley Judd for making such statements and asked, where are the proofs? But I realized that, in part perhaps due to mainstream media blockage of factual information, and in part perhaps of willful ignorance or any combination of circumstances, that for most people who believe these things about Trump, they do not believe the burden of proof lies upon them, because they find these facts to be self-evident. As such, in this video series, I'm going to break down the common tropes and misconceptions regarding Trump, as well as the truths. I may love the man, but I'm not a brain-dead fangirl, and I will readily tell you when I disagree with him on something, think he's misinformed, or actually guilty of a claim levied against him. Thus, this video is going to dissect the man, the myth, the God Emperor, Donald John Trump, based on the assertions I've seen most commonly made about him. Part 1. Sexism and misogyny. So this one comes first because I view it as low-hanging fruit, since the sources of the claims of his misbehavior are the easiest to isolate and deconstruct, hold on to the war on abortion and women's rights that Trump is supposedly waging, because I'm going to tackle that in a different video altogether. Instead, let's move into the first major issue that most have with Trump, at least on the left, sexism. As an aside, this video is called The Biggins because these are the most common claims I've seen getting thrown around. There will actually be a second part to this part of this multi-part series. Yeah, I know that's a bit confusing, but the other video will be about the more minor, less frequently brought up claims and issues. There's just so many of them, I'm gonna have to split it. But let's start strong with the now infamous grab him by the pussy comment. First of all, let's, just for the sake of argument, ignore the fact that this was said in private between the Donald and his friend Billy Bush, and pretend like it was said in public, okay? What Trump said is, and I will quote, "When you're a star, they let you do it. Grab him by the pussy." Let's identify the operative word in that sentence, okay? Let, implying consent. You know that thing feminists are so concerned about? Now, I find this statement as crass and vulgar as anyone else, but I do not believe it is the equivalent of sexual assault, particularly given the fact that he uses the term let. And I think if that phrase triggers you and you find it in the same category as rape or sexual assault, you probably need to redefine those terms for yourself. I mean, this one is first because it was the thing that women seemed most angry about regarding Trump. Yeah, this 10-year-old crass statement made while on the set of a reality show? Yeah, this. While Bill Clinton's numerous rape allegations were dismissed as gold-digging bimbos by the Hill Dog, who herself laughed about defending a child rapist. This is the most offensive thing imaginable.
Reported that as First Lady, Hillary led the effort to disparage her husband's woman accusers who were dismissed as bimbo eruptions.
In November, she wrote on her Twitter page, she said, "Every survivor of sexual assault deserves to be heard, believed, and supported."
That's interesting. I wasn't ever heard and supported and believed. She tried to basically derail me.
I would really like anyone to explain to me how this statement is so offensive. I've identified the use of the word let as consent, so what is the problem? Is it because you think there are no women on earth who would want Donald Trump to grab their pussy? Really? Trump's not wrong here, at least in terms of sexual attraction. The data indicate that women are attracted to older, wealthier men. Moreover, Trump is a millionaire with massive amounts of financial and social capital. From a basic evolutionary standpoint, these are extremely attractive things. These are the things that women would look for in a mate. So yes, he is probably not in the wrong when he says women not only let him, but want him very actively to grab them by the pussy because of his fame and wealth. Of course, not all, but certainly some. In aggregate, evolutionary psychological research shows that women tend to be attracted to older, wealthier, or more successful, taller men, while men tend to be attracted to younger, less accomplished, shorter women. There are evolutionary reasons for this attraction, namely that younger women are more fertile, and older, more successful men are more capable of protection and providing for a family. We are inevitably animals, and our most basic instincts are the reptilian causal base for many of our behaviors, this included. And on that note, let's move on to the claims of sexual assault against Trump that came out during this election cycle. Let's start with Summer Zervos. Summer is one of these several women who came out of the woodwork, coincidentally, to accuse Trump of sexual misconduct. She was a participant on The Apprentice in 2005. 2 years later, while unemployed, she reached out to Trump, hoping for a job. Apparently, he kissed her twice upon their initial meeting. Inappropriate? Perhaps, but this is hearsay. And even her family agreed that it was just in greeting. Later, while visiting LA, Trump invited Summer to his hotel room, where she found him wearing a suit. According to Summer, he kissed her several times and then led her into the bedroom, where he started to make sexual advances, including thrusting on her. However, as soon as Summer turned him down and said, "Please stop," she said she only came just to have dinner, he immediately ceased his advances. They then went back into the kitchen, and once their dinner arrived, Trump gave her advice on her mortgage and getting out of debt. After that, Trump went to sleep and invited Summer to his golf club in the morning, where he had the manager give her a tour, and then that manager later offered her a job. That's what Summer was looking for, right? No, Summer viewed this as a penalization because the job was not for as much as she had been hoping for, and she came out in tears with a daughter of Gloria Allred crying about this before the election, as an allegation of Trump being a sexual predator. Okay, let's break this down. So, you're an unemployed woman, you approach a millionaire whose reality show you were on 2 years prior, he thinks you're into him, you continue to talk to him, you go to his hotel room for dinner, for a private dinner, he makes sexual advances, you tell him no, he immediately backs off, he then buys you dinner, gives you business advice, and then offers you a job. This is a guy who's supposed to be the sexual deviant and rapist. Really? I could not believe watching this video with this woman crying over this. I mean, you wanted a job, he gave you a job. Seriously, it's unbelievable. Oh, and of course, Summer was not the only one to talk about Trump that way. So let's briefly talk about the 13-year-old girl Trump supposedly raped. And this time, for once, I do mean briefly because there is nothing to say about it. An anonymous woman accused Trump of repeatedly raping her on Epstein's pedo island. The case was initially thrown out in California for a lack of articulable violation of the accuser's civil rights. Soon after, however, despite that fact, the media jumped on the case and encouraged the woman to speak up, speak up. However, she failed to appear not just once, but twice, claiming she was too afraid to come forward, and eventually just dropped the case. It's funny how so many cases against Trump came up all at once, almost like it was some sort of, coordinated effort. But when you put any of them to any sort of test, they all came up flat. Again, in one of the most prominent examples that gets raised accusing Trump of sexual assault, it has zero concrete evidence behind it. Another story I'm going to mention are the claims made by Trump's first ex-wife during a deposition which occurred during their divorce proceedings and was published in the 1993 book, Lost Tycoon, The Many Lives of Donald J. Trump, written by Newsweek reporter Harry Hurt III. The book describes a harrowing scene where Trump pulls out Ivana's hair after himself having a botched scalp surgery. Mrs. Trump described the scene as rape. Later, however, Ivana added a foreword to the book stating, quote, "On one occasion during 1989, Mr. Trump and I had marital relations in which he behaved very differently towards me than he had during our marriage. As a woman, I felt violated as the love and tenderness which he normally exhibited towards me was absent. I referred to this as a rape but I do not want my words to be interpreted in a literal or criminal sense. Although the exact details of that night in question are unknown, the two separated in 1990, and even Trump's lawyer, Jay Goldberg, described the treatment of Ivana in their marriage as cruel and inhumane. So, yes, it does appear that Trump was a bit of a piece of shit to his first ex-wife. Although following the divorce, he did say that, quote, "I wish Ivana the best, and I have no doubt she will do very well in the years to come." Ivana also had to sign a gag order as a part of their divorce to prevent her from discussing the marriage, so certainly a little bit suspicious, but again, I don't see any evidence of misogyny or sexism, which is what we're talking about here. Obviously, domestic violence is awful, but it does happen sometimes in a relationship, and the Trumps separated shortly after the event, from which Ivana received approximately $20 million. Additionally, the Donald is still very close with the 3 children he had with Ivana, Donald Jr., Eric, and Ivanka, which, at least to me, indicates that he was not such a horrible monster that abused their mother to such an extreme, as you may think from hearing these previous reports, for if so, I doubt the 3 of them would be so involved. Now that's all just speculation, and since Ivana is barred from speaking about the marriage, we'll likely never know. It does appear that there was at least one instance of legitimate domestic violence that occurred in their relationship, and I will not defend Trump for that, not in the slightest. Oddly enough, I've heard only 1, maybe 2 feminists or leftists bring up Ivana as an example of Trump's misogyny. They're so focused on this stupid pussy-grabbing, flippant comment to pay any attention to the one, and I will say this because I have now been over the data pretty hardcore, the one real instance where you could make anything like the case for Trump being a woman-hater. Typical. On to my last point about the misogynistic claims in this, most common claims episode. Let's talk about the Ivanka comment. So, Trump is kind of a horrible public speaker. He gets mush-mouth and starts to go on tangents leading to nowhere. This is why he was the God Emperor of Twitter before he was the God Emperor of the country. When you limit him to 140 characters, he has to consider what he says, and ends up loading every word with meaning. So yes, one time he said that if Ivanka wasn't his daughter, he might be dating her, and there were some previous comments he made about calling her beautiful and such like that people have taken out of context. And yes, he might be dating her. That comment is extremely awkward. But I don't understand why feminists were so up in arms about it. He was calling his daughter beautiful. Oh God, call the goddamn cops. How dare he say his daughter is beautiful, and not just beautiful, but smart too. I feel like this point is hardly worth noting, despite the fact that I think it's the second most mentioned thing about Trump being a creepy rapist, besides the pussy thing. Because it is so stupid. That's it though. There's nothing else to say about it, so I'm not going to waste any more time on it. And yeah, that's it. Those are the major claims against Trump, at least in terms of popularity. With the exception of the nebulous case of his relationship with his ex-wife Ivana, it's fucking nothing. Now, I know feminists are going with the whole listen and believe narrative, but that's not how things work in a democratic society. Besides, all of the women going against Trump for rape have dropped their claims. Oh, the Illuminati is silencing them! Oh, I thought we were the ones wearing the tinfoil. You really think, with the entire mainstream media on your side, wanting to pin crimes on Trump, that any of these women were just too afraid to go after him? Alright, sure thing, honey. So I think I've covered everything from the main issues. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked, please like and subscribe. I'm Aiden Paladin. Alt on a Volt.